Have you heard any news yet on a ruling?
No news yet.
No news. And when do you have any idea when you expect to hear a ruling? Could it be, I mean, is there any kind of timetable?
There is not. We asked them that specific question. They did not want to commit to a particular timetable, which I totally understand and respect. We gave them a lot of information to consider, a lot of documents, witnesses. It's obviously a significant case. So they didn't want to commit to a particular timetable. And like I said, I get that and respect it.
Did they ask questions or did you all just present your case?
They did ask questions. Most of it, of course, was us presenting our case, but with each particular witness or document, they had the opportunity to ask questions, and they certainly did that from time to time.
So how confident are you that the case that you all presented will, I guess, exonerate Medina Spirit and allow him to stay as the Kentucky Derby winner?
Well, I'm fairly confident that ultimately that will be the result, because I'm confident that the rules here in Kentucky only address and prohibit an interarticular injection of betamethasone, and there's no prohibition against a topical ointment. And we have scientifically proven that what we have here is a topical ointment and not an injection. Now, will will that come? Will the stewards make that ruling? Will we have to appeal to the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission? Will they make that ruling, or will we ultimately have to appeal to a court to get a judge to make that ruling? That's to be determined.
So those are the next steps. You will appeal the ruling if it goes against you here?
Correct. Yes, we feel very strongly about the case, and if there is an adverse ruling, if Medina Spirit is disqualified or Mr. Baffert receives some type of punishment, we will appeal, and the next step in the appeal would be an appeal directly to the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission itself.
And then after that, the next step in the process would be to go through the court system?
Correct.
As for the horses this year and the current situation at Churchill Downs and Mr. Baffert's horses that would be in the running for the Kentucky Derby, who are at this point not allowed to accrue points for the Derby, is there any plan to file something in court to hopefully overturn that to get him in the Derby this year? Where does that stand?
That's not something that I can comment on, and I'm not going to comment on for various reasons. The primary one is I don't represent Mr. Baffert vis-a-vis Churchill Downs.
Okay.
I have a conflict of interest, so he has a different lawyer that represents him with regard to Churchill Downs issues, and that's up to Mr. Baffert and that other lawyer. I have nothing to do with any sort of potential matters, litigation or otherwise, with Churchill Downs, and can't comment on those.
Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize for asking that. What about this? Any idea, like all of this, could this take years to play out? Is that the most likely scenario?
Well, I hope it's not the most likely scenario. It certainly could take that long if we end up going through all of the appeals processes that I just described to you and we end up in a court proceeding, then it would take years. My hope here is that the stewards will see this as we presented it to them and see that there is no rules violation and put an end to it now. Declare that Medina Spirit is the rightful winner of the Kentucky Derby. That would put an end to the case as soon as that ruling came out. If they don't, then, and we have to appeal, it could take years if we have to go through all of those steps.
Is there language in the rules that say how long, like when you would go before the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, or is that, because this process is obviously, I mean, we're in the middle of February and this race was run the first Saturday in May, and you just had your hearing, which, you know, I understand there were some tests that were involved with this. Could this move a little quicker as far as with the Horse Racing Commission now?
Absolutely, I expect that it would. If a ruling comes out, when a ruling comes out, we would have 10 days to appeal that if it's adverse. We would appeal that immediately because we want to move this to conclusion. The only reason that it's taken this long up to this point is because of that additional testing that we had to go and to court and get a court order for the testing to occur. The testing had to be done in New York. It took them a while to complete all that testing. So all that's done. That's the reason why there's been a significant delay to this point. From this point forward, I think things would move much more quickly.
At what point would Churchill Downs disqualify Medina Spirit and declare Mandaloun the winner? Would that be after the court proceeding? Do you know the answer to that question? I mean, would that be after a ruling from the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission on your appeal, and then the court case would move forward? And
yeah, so to be clear, that ruling would come from the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission,
okay,
and not Churchill Downs. So the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission has the authority and the ability to make that type of ruling. And so the stewards here will make some type of ruling in terms of whether or not Medina Spirit is or is not disqualified, and whether or not there is or is not some type of punishment towards Mr. Baffert. So that ruling will come down, I expect, in relatively short order. And it's from that ruling that we will then have the opportunity to appeal.
so at that point, does the money go to the Mandaloun owners? Do they change the signs at Churchill Downs? Do you know the answer to that, or?
Well, typically what happens is that because they recognize that there's an appellate process that must play out. And so what you don't want to do is transfer purse money, take down signs, do all that, and then have to undo it again if something is reversed on appeal. So typically everything is stayed and everything is held in abeyance until all avenues of appeal are exhausted, and that you have a final non-appealable decision.
So best guess, we won't know the answer to this question probably before this Kentucky Derby. Is that fair to say?
Well, I do think that the stewards will make a ruling before this year's Kentucky
I guess
Derby.
what I'm saying, if the ruling doesn't go in your favor.
If the ruling does not go in our favor, then the best guess is you're absolutely right. There will not be finality before this year's Kentucky Derby.
Okay. And so at this point, you're just waiting to hear from them. Is it an email? Is it, how do they go about relaying the message to you?
Typically, it's an email with the decision attached to the email. So I'm anxiously, checking my inbox and my email on a regular basis. That being said, I suppose I could get a call as well. Sometimes that happens, but most of the time it's an email.